All right, welcome everyone again to I don't even know what week of our trifecta nutrition talk here, but we're back, and I think two of us are really sore, and I know we've been doing me and Janice were just talking, Adrian, before this, is that our promotion of these had like slowed down a little bit. What I was telling her was us recording it and sending it out is also a good feature because we're using up a lot of the time for our own content here and to stop it for questions, which is great. But we may ask for some pre-questions if we ever get on a topic from now on, because to invite people in the room, like I don't have if any people in my room on Thursdays, and the conversation's actually a lot better. We're not stopping. Maybe we're not answering the same question we answered 10 times in a row during the talk, stuff like that. So it became better. But yeah, we had a good Murph yesterday, and we made everyone, Adrian, we scaled everyone down. No one had a choice to do whole Murph. No one had a choice to do the whole thing. Like if you came in here and we were going to coach you virtually or we were going to coach you live.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
You were absolutely not doing whole Murph, and we were promoting not even doing the pull-ups, doing any kind of other row or pulling variation. Really? I did single arm dumbbell rows. Like that's what I did for it. And because like I wasn't ready to rip up my hands, I certainly wasn't doing any kind of dynamic kipping or anything like that. So, and if I was, I would have had to push the volume down because we just haven't been doing that stuff. So it's like we've been doing a lot of air squats and push-ups, and we've been doing some running, but that stuff can wreak havoc on you, man, especially when you're trying to turn up the intensity and move really fast. It can be so much more detrimental than just tearing your hands and your lats being on fire. It can be so much worse. So, you know, we just put a stop to it initially. Not only that, I had sent out an email to everyone thinking they were going to do Murph. Like, so we had like almost 40 people, like combined with the two programs. Yeah, like virtually and in live, it was combined, more people virtually. But it was like about 40 people, and we're like, no one that's coming to our sessions is going to do this to themselves. I mean, we're going to celebrate, but we're going to celebrate the smart way. And I'm sore. I'm ripped up.
I bet, dude. Yeah.
I did my pull-ups in sets of 10, 5 sets of 10, and I wanted to keep going. I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah.
They felt really good. I mean, last week I kind of got back into them again, but they felt really good, and I'm so glad I had Carrie there to be like writing it on the board.
I think they were very, very good. Did you use the liquid chalk or did you not use the liquid chalk?
So here's the thing. I use the liquid chalk, which I love, but if you use grips, which I was not going to go on there without grips on. I just wasn't. I would rip my hands no matter what, just because they're like baby hands now. The liquid chalk doesn't do well with my grips. So I did actually use regular chalk.
You did?
However, everybody else who didn't have grips on used the Friction Labs chalk, and it worked great.
And they liked it.
They said it was great.
I find it very satisfying to me to watch someone put it on and their hands turn white. I kind of was describing it as putting a Mento in a Coca-Cola and that like kiddo science experiment. I get the same satisfaction after watching.
You're messed up, man.
Like they're doing this and then all of a sudden it's white.
Well, also the smell. It's funny because the smell of it, like the one with the alcohol, I grabbed that one. You put it on your hands and it's almost like you rub it together. You feel like hand sanitizer, and you like waft your hands for a couple seconds, and then you look down and you're like, oh. But it actually worked really well.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, it's too hot outside.
No,
I'm changing location. It's way too hot.
And Adrian, it was your birthday this weekend.
Yeah, it was.
So
happy birthday!
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you this: like, did you go off the rails nutritionally a little bit?
I had a lot of cake, but like, I don't know. Yeah, that's about it. Like, we had tacos and cake. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So since I really don't drink, that doesn't derail me so much. So that was kind of nice. But overall, yeah, like it's gonna take me like 3 days to resurrect and recorrect. Like a lot of just having my sugar spike that high, you know, and I just feel like garbage whenever that happens too.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's interesting. You nice little segue into our conversation today. You don't
So
really,
I did it.
You don't really drink much, and either
No.
do I don't think Janice drinks a lot. Janice, how many drinks would you say you have in a month? Could you put a number on the month?
I would say actually yesterday, Murph, and having the happy hour at Kate's combined, I had 5 drinks. That's more than I've had in months. So like I won't drink
Wow.
probably and have. So I'm typical 1 to 2, maybe 3 drinks. I'm pretty much a night of drinking.
Yeah.
Like I used to have like once a week. My husband and I would have like Monday and Tuesday or twice a week. That would be my nights off from the restaurant. We would like open a bottle of wine. I'd have a couple glasses of wine. That hasn't been for a couple of years where I just started to feel so good once I removed it. And then even now, like yesterday, you feel like crap. You're
Yeah, you
dehydrated.
just feel like jar. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say on a normal month, I can go from 0 to like 6 in a whole month. And then there's certain things like if I'm at an occasion like a wedding,
Right.
Right.
occasion, I'm gonna probably drink heavily. But other
Yeah.
than that, if I don't have those kind of events on my calendar, then I'm probably at 0 to 6 drinks a month. 6 being like
Right.
a lot of drinks in the month. You know,
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
that kind of where you're like, Adrian, like how often do you drink?
I mean, really rarely. Like between, I mean, I'm talking like I'll drink at a wedding, and at this rate, I'm probably going to 1 wedding a year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, outside of it, it's just like literally, I mean, and we can go into how this in my body responds as like poison, but I get just crushed in so many ways that it's not even enjoyable at this point.
Yeah.
And I seem to have way more flexibility overall. There's, as we know, like when you're older, things just stack up quicker. Right. So like the same cards you could play, even in like these 2-year increments, I think after 30 change, like 30 to 32, 32 to 34, 34, 40, 42, 40. I think like you can't have as much wiggle room.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree.
Like there's just not as much room. So like if I drink Saturday, I'm missing for sure Sunday's workout 100%. But then that's probably going to like carry over into Monday. I'm going to probably, if I was wearing one of your straps, red.
Yeah.
Like definitely not going to be able to go. Tuesday, I'm at a medium workout. So by the time I get back into the swing of a full like protein synthesis, all my hormones working back in, like, I'm back into being an anabolic. I've lost 5. Yeah, exactly, Janice. I'm almost a week behind. So that's really, when I break it down to my clients, I break down the macro component of it, but also really when we're talking, at least in the athletic platform, it's so far back on performance. You're taking multiple steps back.
Yeah.
And like, I'm fighting so much. I mean, you guys we're all in the same age cohort. We're trying so much to maintain and make small gains where like, it just doesn't, it's not a priority in my lifestyle. Like, again, I coach some people that their main jobs are they wine and dine. They're in sales. And they like a beer or two, or they enjoy wine. It's like a part of a culture. So I am fortunate that that's not in my wheelhouse. But some people it is, and that's something we could definitely go over in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like for some cultures, like they're gonna have multiple glasses of wine. So as a coach, we have to be really strategic in how we approach that. Or some people just love to booze. So you have to like, you have to go about that too. So I'm fortunate where like, I don't like the way that I feel. I don't like the after effects, and then how it lowers my inhibitions, how I'm going to be Janice saying you feel like crap, like dehydration, like, I'm lethargic. I just don't care. I'm going to want to order Chinese food as I'm laying on the couch with DoorDash. These are all common things we go through, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had 2 drinks spaced out pretty evenly yesterday, like by a lot. And I nursed these 2 seltzers, and I didn't work out yesterday.
Yeah, I saw your whoop strap this morning.
Yeah, and I didn't work out yesterday. And that happens every time I drink, even 1 or 2 drinks that I'm not ready to work out the next day. So here's the crazy thing. I used to not even track that, right? I used to come in and work out and probably do something high intensity where it was like, I was probably just crushing my soul even more.
Yeah, exactly.
And talk about hormonal imbalances, you know what I mean? What are some of the things that happen when you drink, like when we talk about like, you know, fat metabolism. Like, here's my understanding of it, and you could probably clear this up for me. From my understanding, depending who you are and how much you've consumed, your body will make its best attempt to get back to homeostasis, which means it has to clear up all the alcohol in your system before it starts really being primed to process any other fuels, maybe burn some body fat, stuff like that, because your body doesn't want alcohol inside of it. So it's going to do everything it can to kind of get it flushed out of your system, and that's going to interrupt all of the other beneficial things that you want your body to do. Now, would you agree with that? And could you maybe go into a little more depth, actually?
Yeah, I mean, it can get really deep in that, but basically, like, alcohol by itself, when I drink it, isn't that terribly toxic. I mean, it's ethanol, right? And our body doesn't have a storage place for that. It has a storage for the other macros, but most people know, like, the kilocalorie breakdown of fat is like 7, right? So fat and alcohol, my bad. So what people seem to forget is when it enters, it's one thing, but we need 2 components to break it down: alcohol dehydrogenase and dehydrogenase something else. These 2 enzymes basically have to break down alcohol into acetaldehyde, which is basically it's like gasoline. Your body goes, we have the most highly toxic possible poison. It registers as a poison in our body. So our liver's like, get in here. Okay. So all of those things, those chemical interactions go to the body. So that because it is such a poison, it must suspend everything else it's doing. So if you just work for 6 days straight doing CrossFit, putting your body in anabolic state where testosterone's, you know, pretty high, you know, cortisol's low, insulin's going in the right places. We just did all these amazing things. Your body just again, it steps in front. The liver has to step in front. Wait, whoa, stop. So now macros, fats, and proteins and carbs are all suspended and will shuttle for storage, because the body's like, we literally have to focus on this poison in our body. So anything you then intake during that period is more or less going to be influenced towards storage as well. So cool, if you go eat a pizza, you could eat the healthiest thing in the world. That apple is going to go to storage, which is fat, right? So it's going to go to storage, and it's not going to go to glucose. It's not going to go to muscles, because everything's shut off. So the body's most primal spot, it's going to go under that sort of stress, which is over 1 drink per hour, which I don't know. Most people are probably drinking a little bit more than that, right? Those processing, that's really how then it's all broken down. And then it takes a really long time for the body to then recollect all of these enzymatic interactions. So then the next day when you wake up, the hangover is really just symptoms of being very out of whack, of just basically drinking poison. So I'm not demonizing alcohol. I mean, I had my fair share of fun with it. It was fun times. But waking up the next day, you're dehydrated, right? And then your appetite it increases appetite, and it lowers your sense of satiety. So you don't know how full you are. So you're just eating pizza. So basically the cataclysmic effect of those interactions just like strong arms behavior, like really hard. Even if I'm so willful, I'm going to eat the pizza. I have an electrolyte imbalance. I want salt. Also remember
fat and carbs.
Exactly. Because all of your body hasn't processed the damn thing within 48 hours. Yeah. You see how that, like, so for the client, it's like, man, it's a lose-lose situation. I try to keep alcohol as far as I can out of the equation until they have a toolkit on how to reintroduce it. Then we reintroduce it and we work those things through, and we go right back into whatever drinking they want to do. But for the first 8 weeks, I need like kind of a cleaner engine to work with. And then, and during that, I can teach behavior skills. So when we enter in alcohol, they have behavior skills to somewhat navigate. But if you get 6 to 8 drinks in you and you're 150-pound either way gender, you're going to be hungover the next day. So
totally.
You know what I'm saying? Well, like either or.
Also, I think a big misconception is like they say like a drink a day is someone who's a moderate drinker. So
I would say that's not true.
I know.
Just a glass of wine.
I know, but So I'm saying, like, you have a glass of wine at dinner. say you do that Monday through Thursday, you have 4 drinks. I
Mhm.
think the misconception for people, there's a lot of people I think rationalize, well, I don't drink during the week. I don't drink at all during the week. And then they think it's moderate if they're having 3 to 4 drinks on a Friday and 3 to 4 drinks on Saturday. At that point, now you're not a moderate drinker. You're not doing it.
Mhm.
You know, moderate drinking is to be treated the way you treat food. You drink it as a compliment. You drink it slow. You drink it to savor the flavor of it. When you're doing it because it's, I got my work week out of the way. I worked out really hard. I deserve this, or like as a social thing, and you're doing that every weekend, that no longer becomes a moderate drinking behavior. It's no longer, the benefit is gone completely.
Yeah.
And now it's also that mindset too. It's like that's that almost like, it's not a binge, but almost like someone who, Monday through Friday, I eat my macros, and then Saturday, Sunday, I order out because I feel like I deserve it. And it's that same kind of mentality. And I think that's a majority of the people that we work with that can stay on point Monday through Thursday, and even eat really well on Friday. But Friday happy hour comes, and Friday until Sunday afternoon, or Friday and Saturday night. Sunday they try to recover themselves again. But their eating's not going to be on point on Sunday.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is wake up in the morning and eat egg whites and oatmeal.
Oof.
Like, you want something fatty, salty, and
So good greasy sandwich from somewhere.
Pork roll, egg and cheese.
That's right.
On a pretzel roll.
Oh, the pretzel rolls are good from the farmer's market. The pretzel rolls.
Oh,
loves
dude.
those things.
Get out of here.
They're putting
so
bacon, egg, and cheese wrapped in a pretzel.
Just stop.
And what do you think? What do you think's on that pretzel? Butter, so they can get the salt on there.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's funny because Janice had mentioned about all the people that we have that do well Monday through Friday, and then all of a sudden it's a shitstorm on a Saturday. And what I'm trying to tell these people is, you guys are starting over every week.
Every week. It's so bad.
Until Wednesday or Thursday to even lose the water weight, plus get back to any form of intensity.
Yep.
But what are you doing? Like, we don't excuse I'm hearing from people how they rationalize it. But I'm doing Miller 64s, or I'm doing just vodka, right? So here's the question. There's so many different ways to account for alcohol. So let's just say, so I think eating nothing and just going for calories and being like I'm good is the wrong way to do it. So we make it more impactful, Janice, 'cause I know you've looked at some of these. What are you logging booze as? You can't just log it as a Miller 64. Like, what are you specifically logging booze as? What should it be?
I would do a manual log, look at the overall calories, but I would do the log as 7 grams. What is it? 7. Say it's a seltzer. It's 100 calories. I would make it as like carbohydrates.
Yeah,
I would do it as carbohydrates were worth 7. So 7 into 100, 20 or 19, 18 grams of carbs.
Right.
So I wouldn't add that for fat now. I do straight carbohydrates.
So it's always straight carb. Adrian, are you kind of in the same thought? Is it always carbohydrates? Is there any fat involved anywhere in the logging process with that?
No, I mean, basically since again, it doesn't have a fat storage unit, like I do what Janice does 100%, because at the end of the day, most people just have a sugar issue. So like we want to keep their sugars during the day if they're going to drink. Again, I know what you asked the question was directly about what are you logging it as? I log it as sugars, as Janice said with the manual. Because most people, what we're doing, at least in my system, is carb cycling. Yeah. So that's the one thing they're really looking at. That's the one thing we're going to mark it down as. However, my advice to them during the day is we're trying to keep total calories a little lower, and I'm actually going to bump their carbs and proteins up a little bit because fats need to be like plummeted.
Yeah.
It's
going to be, it causes even worse damage. So I'm just trying to like mitigate the damage at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
By like keeping the day pretty rich and like, I'm okay with like, complex carbs, lots of vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, trying to build up the immune system a little bit, like some dandelion root tea, stuff like that, just trying to help. Again, there's no detox, anything. There's just things that help assist the liver and make it a little stronger in its functionality. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing exactly what that Janice does, and it counts towards their carb totals, and they need to be aware of that, like going into the week, the
So
weekend.
Yeah, so if I had 3 yesterday, I had 3 seltzers, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at
how many calories in each seltzer?
they're 100.
100 probably.
300 calories
So
by 7.
I had almost 60 grams of carbs just from that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Now, for me, I didn't see a bad recovery today, and I will say it's probably because I drank as soon as I got done Murph yesterday. I had like salted water all morning.
Yeah,
I had my electrolytes like pretty balanced. As soon as we got done, I had like protein and carbs, and then I had those carbs kind of right after. And then my rest of my day was actually solid eating. Like I ate very well, despite the fact that we drank at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Which is But I think if I didn't do Murph, I would have had a full, like, Matt, if I were you, like, who didn't work out yesterday, I would be, I mean, I showed you guys the screenshot of me last week. My resting heart rate averages between 40 and 47 on a regular day, like when I'm sleeping. So I have a very low resting heart rate. I'm between 58 to 63 or 4 if I had 1 or 2 drinks the day before.
That's
Today
significant.
I'm in huge. It's not like 2 beats. And my HRV, Matt, I showed you yesterday, I was like 220. My HRV today is significantly lower.
Yeah.
And that's a day where I, like I said, the rest of the day, I took care of what I ate, mindfully eating. I didn't eat junk. I didn't eat fat. Like I was very on point with my nutrition yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that sticks out to me is there's a big misconception about what booze people should be drinking, especially if they're doing like these low carbohydrate diets. They're like, but I'm just having vodka, right? So do you know how many calories are in a shot of vodka, Janice? Do you know that?
Yeah, Tito's is like 67 or 70, somewhere around there.
So I'm easily seeing people on these low carbohydrate diets having like 6 vodka drinks and feeling okay about it.
Dude, that's crazy.
So you just look at how far out of like what it just kicked you out of if you were trying to get into some ketosis or even just trying to get your insulin response to an appropriate level. And people are not like, they're not accounting for the sugar the sugar intake there, and they're just blowing their carbs out of the water. And listen, carbs also bring water with it to gain to give you some water weight. Even though it's kind of a diuretic, not really. But it's like no wonder the water waste. Like a lot of my female clients, they can gain 5 to 7 pounds over a weekend.
Oh, easy.
And they're like, why am I not losing any weight? Because you keep on starting over. You keep on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you wine, which is funny because wine, people I think can rationalize a glass of red wine. And I think that's probably why a lot of people start drinking wine, because it's a way to like, oh, it's red wine, it's good for your heart. So say you have a glass of that a day. Say my carbs for the day that I have, I'm on point with everything, and I actually saved a little room. I didn't have any bad eating, and I'm like, I'm going to have a glass of wine. That's 125 calories. You break that down to the carbs, and you do that every day. Now the next thing you know, you're 20 more grams of carbs per day. Do that over a course of a week. I mean, if you're tracking.
Janice, let me ask you this. You mentioned before about alcohol, and this is off topic, alcohol enhancing the flavor of certain foods. Are you that knowledgeable? I think you're that knowledgeable. Are you that knowledgeable? You can suggest what booze would go with what food?
I mean, I definitely know a little bit about wine pairing in terms of pairing different things and what work well together. I have found that it's a palate. People over time, and this is the thing too, as your diet changes, your palate for alcohol and the type of alcohol that you like will change. If you are on point with your diet and say you take a lot of sugar and stuff out, those drinks that you used to like, you're most likely not going to like anymore because of the sugar content or the taste, like the sweetness of it. So I mean, like, I'm not one that yet has a palate for bourbon. I want to have it. I'm just not, it's not acquired yet. Or like some people who like IPAs, like you get that palate. They do pair very well. I mean, certain red wines pair very well with dark chocolate, as like a dessert. Certain white wines pair really well with fish and chicken. So there definitely is. Bourbon and whiskey pair so well with different types of food. That's why you have like those whiskey tastings and things like that. Pulls the flavors out of the food and they complement each other. So, I think me more than anything, if I'm drinking wine, it's like red meat and red wine. You know what I mean? Full body sweet Italian wines go with certain kind of dishes that have like more of a heavy kind of like sweet kind of gravy to it. They just complement each other well. Even though, you know, the people that do that obviously can still abuse it. But it is meant to be more of like you know, you don't eat a steak dinner every single night. You save that steak dinner for like an event. You know what I mean? You have a filet mignon, a medium rare, paired with certain things, because that's not something you eat Monday through Friday or even once a week.
It's all behavior related, because the reason I asked you, I asked you for two reasons. One, I didn't think you were going to give me such a polished response. That was such a great response. I was going to be able to throw you off. But there are people, and I've dealt with a lot of nutritional clients that are foodies, okay? And they're also foodies, and I don't know if there's another term for like drinkies, but
drinkies.
But there's an association there. Like when they have this food, they need to have a lot of bourbon, or when they have this food, they need to drink a lot of a certain wine. So one thing, the booze is related to food choices. The food choices are related to the booze. So it becomes so much more intricate knowing that kind of stuff, you know, specifically for your client, because I have a lot of foodies that also love that pairing stuff, and it makes both go out of whack. No,
right?
You know, Adrian, did you know Janice has a ton of bar and restaurant experience? Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know
that.
I do know
that. We talked.
That's why. I figured, that's why I figured she, you know, that she knew
had the background.
Yeah, because she knows it. Laura also. I don't know if Laura knows that information. I would have to ask her. She is a very good bartender. I'd have to ask her.
She's a great bartender. I would think. See, now Laura's worked more in bars than restaurants.
Yeah.
So
true.
In restaurants, I mean, in part of the education when you're working in a restaurant, you're trying to upsell, right? Yeah. So like when someone's asking for a specific type of wine, a lot of times it can be based off of what they're eating. So you want to be able to say, oh, well, you're getting notes of this and it can, you know, it'll complement this, or they won't work well together and have like how the flavors will work best. So I don't know. She may.
I'll have to ask her. It's something I want to ask my wife about tonight at dinner. I sit there and say nothing because I'll be decompressing from my day of working with 3 boys. But here's the next part of this. So I've had different schools of thought and how I consult people that like to drink, right? Because it's hard, because I think we're all clear and it's obvious by now, like drinking is going to inhibit any kind of gains that you kind of want to make, whether you want to get real lean, whether you want to gain lean body mass, whether you're trying to lose weight. But here's the problem. We're all human. I want to know, and I think people want to know, what's the intervention strategy? Because does it depend on the person? Like if I have a guy that's that guy that comes home from work and has 4 to 6 beers a night, obviously that's a problem, right? It needs to stop. We need to get a handle on that. But what is the intervention strategy? Is it right from the beginning? Hey, listen, let's give it up for a little bit and see if we can get it. Or how I kind of used to do it is, we're going to work with your diet. I want you to cut down the drinking. I want you to moderate it. And I always get them, like I've gotten a lot of people to tell me they've wanted to stop drinking during the process because they realize how restrictive it actually makes their menu if they choose to drink. And they don't like that. Like, I think people need to learn moderation, and no one really knows what moderation is. No one knows that. And I think that's the one habit that's so hard to create a behavior change around. So, like, how do you handle someone coming in that's a total mess with the booze? They're either the binge drinker on the weekend where it's out of control, or, you know, or they have like an honestly, hey, you know, I have a lot of clients that I like to drink a bottle of wine a night. It's like, what? How do you even wake up? Like, you know,
that's 600 calories.
Yeah.
600 to 700 calories.
Wow.
And if you're at like a 50, like when I started tracking, I was at like 1,500 calories, and I was training hard 1 to 2 times a day. So for me, it was like it just couldn't fit in there. When you're training that hard and then your body's feeling so good because you eliminated a day or 2 and just try it out, it's kind of like, I could eat this or only eat this. It becomes that where you have to make that decision. I mean,
Yeah.
So what's the best way? What's the best way to handle it? If on your intake you're like, oh wow, this person has like 12 drinks a week. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, I've had worse.
Uh,
I've had someone that's uh like 4 to 6 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Most people are around that, like they're at like 20 drinks a week.
yeah.
So it's usually it's not my place to say anything, right? And what you said, if I do their intake right and we ask clearly what their goals and objectives are, I think, again, I have two schools, and I'm going to sound like a real big Gemini here, so I'm going to go back and forth. My earlier thing was I take it out and then I add it back in. With some people, if it's basically borderline, not a dependency issue, but if they're at 20 drinks a week, that's a big chemical reaction I don't want to play with right away. So we'll monitor it, and I'll just, like, if it's 20, I'm like, can we just start with 15 a week? Like, that's just like a low barrier, right? And everyone's like, cool. And then during the process, we start gently. And the thing is, as they clean up their diet, as they start feeling better, as they start sleeping more, getting more hydration, all the macros, across the board, everyone tends to drink less. And then when they go into drinking the amounts that they used to, they realize how toxic their system was before and how it can barely process alcohol now. Like, man, I remember, almost every one of my clients says something like this. I remember when I used to drink this amount and I'm having 2 drinks and I feel lightheaded already. So I think, like, I like to I can clean the system out without it's just too much. So I'll be, taking away playing with someone's macros can be enough of a chemical reaction for a month to just navigate before we start really diving into alcohol. Might be weeks like, 7, 8, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we start really getting into that, because they start seeing it too. And once they start dropping weight and seeing how good they look and how they feel, they don't want to. Mm-hmm. Kind of like resurrects itself without me bringing it up. Yeah. And I've had numerous clients, go from drinking a lot to like not drinking that much. And I have some that has stayed pretty consistent throughout and they've dropped the weight, but it's been like, I always tell everybody, if you want to keep drinking the exact amount you're doing right now, this is like driving a car with the e-brake on. It's going to be a lot more painful, a lot slower. Yeah. Shit's going to go wrong. If we just take that e-brake, we can go a lot faster. Yeah. So that's kind of like how I've always viewed it. So those are like two, again, it's completely depends on the person. Mm-hmm. We don't want to take something away so much so early, because that might be a crux for a lot of different stuff. Usually it kind of cleans itself. It self rectifies. I think I said the wrong word. I think I said resurrects. It rectifies itself throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of keep that as a thing that's there, like, hey, this is something we might have to really dive into, but for right now, we're going to kind of, because I know that for a lot of people, when they say, oh, well, what do you do? They ask me, well, I guess you don't drink at all. So I couldn't drink doing it. And it's like they already make up in their mind that, hey, like, right. I'm not willing to sacrifice it. So I just won't even go there. Right, rather than trying to find that middle ground. Rather like, hey, we're not saying 0, but if you have 5, maybe you can cut it down to 3. And like, I know that a lot of the stuff that I've read is a lot to do, like, very similar to food. If you look at booze the way you should be looking at food, as you're having a drink it slowly, savor the flavor. Wait 10 minutes before you go to have a next one. Think about it in different senses. Like, do you really want it, or is it the habit because you're used to doing that every Friday night? Maybe you usually start drinking at 5 o'clock when you get done work. Maybe you get home instead, unwind a little bit another way, have your first drink at 7. Do you still want it? Like, ask yourself those questions.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's so many different ways to do it, and I think that's a great way. I never thought of even that myself. I just learned something, which is awesome. Thank you. But there's like, everybody's so different. You have to really do, not just like an emotional profile on someone, but almost like a neurochemical to find out if they're more like dope, like the Brahman test, I believe it is, BRAHMANN. It's a neurotransmitter test. Charles Poliquin used to use a lot with athletes. It helps with programming, but also really helps with like finding if you're more, dopamine driven, if you're more GABA, like it really goes into like which neurotransmitter kind of wired for. And then that actually like completely cycles into like how you coach someone through situations, which it's called like neurotyping. somebody, like, and it also really helps. So I like a ton of variability in my programming. I'm talking about for exercise. Some people, I
Yeah.
mean, you guys know as strength coaches, you could give them deadlift, bench, and squat, and they will be happy for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would
Yeah.
shoot myself. I need those all in one workout and multiple different grips, varies. Like,
Mhm.
I need variability, which means I'm a different type of neuro type. But you know, these athletes that love to mix it up, and some that can just literally do the same exercise for an hour and be totally cool with that.
Yeah. Yep.
So you know what I'm saying? So
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it's like how we coach people, like, are they okay with going from 20 to 15 drinks across? Or can we really pull the rug and be like, hey, how important is this? Can we, if they're very GABA driven, we can just be like, cut it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Right.
can do that. I'm a person where someone can go eliminate that today.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
gonna suck, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'd rather wean into it, but I also have, you know what I'm saying? It's like some people you know how to wean, and some people can go cold turkey. It really helps understanding that. It's the I'll remember it. I'll text it to you guys.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna.
Type in Charles Poliquin, then BR. It's the Bratman or the Brahmin. I used to know exactly what it was. I just forgot.
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out. I really
Braverman. Braverman. It's the Braverman test.
All right,
Braverman.
Yeah, it just came up.
Braverman test. Sorry, my brain had to like go.
It's from all that
Bioinform. There's a training course on it.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. You can just print out the free test they have. I used to use it on some of my athletes with programming when I was doing like 6 to 12 month programming, because I needed to know what they were going to respond to, like waves, clusters. There's all sorts of stuff, but I think you can use it a lot for coaching too.
Oh, that's
Cool.
good. That's very
Thanks.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the tapering idea of a total volume of drinks. It's funny because we definitely address drinking. Well, I do with my clients, and we address it more like it's almost like we have to have a hard conversation with them, just
Right.
setting every single time. But I kind of like the tapering down of a specific number, and I think I'm going to start using that in some of my sessions, because we leave each meeting with contractual obligations as far as like they have to do
Right.
something nutritionally that they agree to, right? So the thing about, okay, you have 20 drinks a week. For the next 2 weeks, you're only allowed 15 a week. Then you're only allowed 10 a week. And let's take it out that way, because, it's just all over the place. And really, the sad thing is, you will not get to where you really want to be if you continue to do that. Or we gotta really talk about your goals here, because if your goal are to be able to go to the beach and have a six-pack all year long, and that's what you want, then we got to really address the alcohol here. We got to talk about it, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's like John Berardi has that one. I love the infograph by Precision Nutrition, which is like your level of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right.
For me to have abs, I can't drink. I can't have dairy. I'm basically eating white meat, cruciferous vegetables, maybe one apple, and a bowl of oatmeal. Because I've done it so many times, I know exactly what it takes. And at this level, I might not even get away with fruit.
Mm.
So 23, Adrian, I can get away with pretty much a lot.
Yeah.
And still, but like the older I get and the way your body changes, and we all know this with even the profile of all of our athletes, there's not as much wiggle room. Like, you don't have that much room of play. Especially some people are like, come on, man. Like, you can't, like, I have a lot of clients that will want to continue drinking and stay and be like, well, can I continue to like get to where I want to? And I'm just dead serious. I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's when I have to actually put my foot down. I'm like by the laws of thermodynamics and science, no, like you can't get there. And they get all frustrated. And I'm like, it's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, also because, like you said, you're like putting the e-brake on. So it's going to be a lot more of a painful process. It's going to be a longer process.
Yeah.
So if you have a client that's already coming to you, they're looking to you to kind of give them that extra push, to be their guidance, to support them. How much willpower do you have? You didn't have much willpower because a lot of people are in a situation they're in, maybe because so now you're actually asking yourself to have a lot longer willpower with more of a restricted diet in order to include something that in the long run probably needs to be reduced anyway,
Yeah. That's when you have to start asking yourself deeper questions. It's like, why are you fighting me on this so hard?
Yeah. Well,
if it's not something you're willing to wiggle, like, then just be cool with where you're at. You know?
Well, exactly. And I also think too is like when you ask your, in our intake, we ask them priority level, 1 to 10, 10 being your highest priority. I get tens all the time, all the time, weight loss, tens all the time. So then you get into it and you're week 1 or 2 and it's, wait a minute, like, oh, I'm not being able to do this. I'm not, so wait a minute, this was a level 10 for you. This wasn't like a number 5.
Right.
This wasn't like, well, I could use a couple pounds. It's, I need to lose weight. I'm all in.
By
I'm
this
ready.
date,
Yeah. So like, if you're all in, then, put the sacrifice up for a couple of weeks, see how you feel.
Right.
If you're adhering to the things we talk about for 2 weeks and you tell me you don't feel any better, then we'll talk. Then obviously there's something going on here.
Yeah.
But
I always tell everybody, give yourself a fighting chance. Like give yourself a chance to succeed here.
Yeah.
You keep riding the bicycle and I keep putting a spoke in the peg every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like when we put up on the scoreboard for the month, you're 8 days not burning fat. Maybe. If we're talking about the weekend. Right? So 2, 4, 6, 8. So we're talking about 1 week versus 21 days. When you keep cycling that, and it's a vicious cycle on the endocrine system. It's a vicious cycle. It's almost like a mild detox. Like, my God, it's so much extra work for the body. So then you're desensitizing it to processing like a lot of chemicals, which then lowers your immune system, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, getting back into that, like how can you succeed if 21 days you're on point, but 8 days you're completely derailing?
Right.
Yeah.
It's very
also
difficult.
too, on those days too, if you are getting that adherence where you're having that, hey, work week, hold tight with your carbs a little bit, reduce here, and you are cycling them, allowing them to have a little bit more freedom on the weekend with your carbs. So now you're having a little bit more weekend with your food, your carbs, and now you're having a little bit more freedom with the alcohol. Next thing you know, it's like you really fucked your whole week.
Exactly.
Whole week, and your whole week, especially like I know a whole lot of our athletes. I mean, and I think in quarantine they've worked out a lot more on the weekends. But I know a lot of our athletes just from coaching and being a member at our gym for so long is they work out Monday through Friday and they take their Saturday and Sunday off and they're with their families.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like you're training those 5 days. Your rest days are the days that most likely actually not a lot of carbs would probably be better for you. You probably need those carbs to train a lot harder during the week. Your rest days are days that you should actually be maybe including a little bit more fat, resting, letting your body slowly get those, nutrients in your body.
Weekend.
And then now instead you're working out Monday through Friday. We're pulling those carbs back to see anything when you actually need them for better training, for protein synthesis, for all that. And then you're popping them in on the weekend. And then every Monday you're like, shit, I gained 3 pounds. I feel like shit. I want to work out. I didn't see any improvement. I'm not performing better. And it's like,
and then psychologically going through that whole process, you just feel like you're failing. Like the client actually thinks they're failing the whole time, which they all know,
week after week after week.
And it's so frustrating because they're like, I don't get it. I am perfect Monday through Friday. It's like, but you're not. You're not. Because guess what happened on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Even though you ate pretty good, your body was still processing foods because it's going to depend how much fat's on your body, how much muscle mass is on your body, how do you metabolize alcohol? It's different for everybody. Like it's hard to have our cake and eat it too. You can get to a certain point of.
You can get to a certain point, but
you can, but it not the way the majority of people think that it goes down.
No,
well,
go ahead, Janice, go ahead.
Well, I was also going to say is that I think a lot of people when you talk to them and you say, hey, we got to start here, they assume that's the way it's going to be forever in life.
Yeah.
You don't need to be 100% restrictive forever in life, but right now we got to get you, coming down from where you are.
Right.
We got to get you, not craving salt, sugary foods, not, wanting the processed stuff, not wanting to. So we need to start removing stuff and slowly reintroducing those things so that you can have it in part of your lifestyle for when you go to weddings, when you want to go to a happy hour and have a drink here or there. But it doesn't have to be every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Yeah, and what Matt was saying, to your point, like what we're seeing when most people come to us is a high inflammatory and a high stress state, right? So their bodies doesn't have enough competing resources for healing. So they're going to spend a longer time in that window getting nutrient repartitioning back on board. So if they went out heavy Saturday, maybe me, you, and Janice, we could probably, with clean liquors, we'd probably up and running Tuesday at 100%. If we hydrate, nail Saturday, Sunday, electrolytes, maybe. Maybe. Hormetically, I'm probably 75. I would be dialed in Wednesday. Okay, so that's someone that's, in my opinion, the three of us are in pristine health. I've got great blood work. My biomarkers for genetics and illnesses are very low. So I'm coming into this, but still I'm human. I have waves of stressors. Now, most of the people we're dealing with have so many gut issues, right? Just inflammation everywhere, multiple rounds of antibiotics, multiple prescription drugs. The body can only do so much, and adding in to a poisonous environment, man, I mean, it's you're really, really, that's what I said. It's like driving the e-brake couldn't be any better. Like wearing ankle weights in a freaking pool. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be a fight, and you're causing a lot of ripple reactions everywhere. So the healthier someone is, they can help process that maybe quicker. So maybe moving from a 72-hour window of not being able to get back into an anabolic state, maybe we can really mitigate that and biohack our way into 30 hours. But still, the people we're talking a full week. Like you said, it's got to be frustrating. I would be frustrating if I'm doing this.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then every Monday, a lot of people want to jump on the scale on their Monday morning, and it's like, you're jumping on the scale every Monday. Yeah, you're not going to see anything.
No.
You're going to see that you either gained weight or you stayed the same, despite the fact that you're.
And then God knows what you ate. So anything that you ate then the next day is going to be nutrient repartitioned to hell. So if you eat crappy, you're just going to go into deeper fat stores, way deeper. So you nailed your stuff. You probably got back in 48 hours, right? So you can do that because, again, you have the behavior skill set. You've got the physiology to do it. You've practiced going from catabolic to anabolic multiple times. But most of these people are still catabolic. So their body won't even swing anabolically.
Oh, I definitely could have. And I know that I could have made one different change yesterday and ate something completely different right after Murph. And that would have changed my whole
Kicked
entire
everything.
day.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really again, I think it depends where you want to be, but I think the less is best for sure. If it's not cultural or social at the moment, try to not incorporate it. Mm-hmm. So if you're just hanging out, if you're like, I need to grab a beer, try to just not do that until you're in a social, or I'm at a tailgate, I'm at an Eagles tailgate. Notice I said that Eagles, not any other team. However, if I was at a wedding, like you said, just these specific, I call them situational social eating episodes, SSEE. That's what I teach my clients. So they have to be situational. They have to be social, and it's going to be an eating episode, which means we need to encompass 24 hours before, the day of, and after. I'm talking about from density training, glycogen depletion. I like to build this massive thing. I don't want to do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just don't drink. Yeah. Right? But if I have to, I can build these things that can help mitigate the damage. But at the end of the day, it's still you'd be better off just opting out.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that. I know that in our house, it's funny. We have wine and beer. Now we do have liquor in there in our cabinet. For a long time, we wouldn't have liquor even in our house. Not because we're big liquor drinkers, but in my mind, it just was if I'm going out to a restaurant or a bar and meeting friends, that's when you can have, because then it's not about just having a sip or a taste. It's about you're getting somewhere. I'm if I'm drinking vodka clubs or a vodka martini, that's not me just sitting at home winding down. So I mean, also removing a lot of those things from our house.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we didn't
doing
drink it.
clean
We didn't
out.
drink in our house for years. Like when our kids were young, we just didn't have it. If we had people over, then we would go out and buy some beer and have
Yeah,
it.
totally. Yeah.
And neither my husband or I were huge drinkers. We definitely enjoyed it, but it was, if you had to go to a store because you really wanted to have a drink, I mean, like, then it was mentally like, oh, well, then maybe there's a problem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it goes, I think those two things, like, and Matt, you hated my one story a couple weeks ago, that goes just super under the radar in our industry, right? Like the caffeine and alcohol. Like for some, it just really, I mean, it's something I've talked about for a long time. It's highly acceptable, but it's totally like, it can be really an issue. So just look at the CrossFit community. Totally cool caffeine in kilos. Totally cool hammer 300 milligrams. Like, these are completely acceptable things. Either way, it damages your adrenals and at that level. You can waive it. We've talked about this. But what's interesting to me is we can drive stimulants up. So you're taking upper in the morning and then downer at night. Either way, again, you're playing this role. And you're doing this, but we have these expectations of optimal performance.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll totally like take out, like you said, Monday to Friday, I'm on point with my macros and perfect. You're still taking a shitload of caffeine. Okay. So then we go into the weekend. Caffeine surges usually go significantly up because then we're adding in depressants. I need a huge coffee to get going. Again, you just upward and downward your system. And then you fucked up your hormones in between. So like, it's like, to me, I'm just like, sometimes I'm doing this when it's like, if we really look at the physiology, it's easier to just not see it. It's easier, believe me, it's just to go, that doesn't exist. Right. And like you said, to discount it. But when someone paints that picture for them and goes, listen, this is where you're at, this is what you're doing, they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, man, that's what you're doing. It's
So
like
also,
getting on a moped, man. You're going 50 miles an hour. Then I'm going to go shove you back 100. And you're still, like Janet said, you're trying to go somewhere. Like, you can't go that far. It drives me bonkers.
Yeah, it's nuts. And now it's funny. Janice, should I feel conflicted that I run an annual bar crawl from this gym?
No, dude, that's not bad, man.
No.
You guys preach health the right way. It's like, you know, the people
I've only made one of those.
Stuff.
No. But you know what? I would say, too, Adrian, you said about the hormones.
Yeah,
I mean, we're working with so many women that have hormones issues in general. And it doesn't matter what supplements we can tell them or how we can change their nutrient timing, and we can make sure during the week, like while you're training, this is how you are. It does affect your hormones so much that I can't even tell you what it does to your body.
Yeah, and I mean, even if we could be the brightest, we could do everything. If we're talking about someone that has premenopause, post, and we're just like, hey, like, can you just suspend the morning coffee and wine? And they will fight you tooth and nail, but they'll want to take the supplement. They'll want to manipulate their macros to the hills. But it's like, no matter, I could have you eat probably a McDonald's burger, a little child one, every day. And if I took out and I'm saying this very appropriately, and if I take out your morning coffee and these uppers and downers, you're probably going to lose weight faster than doing this, because there's a certain release. Then over time, again, adrenal fatigue is setting in. Then we're really messing with fat storage and, you know, where things go. And we start to increase estrogen levels even higher at night. Like, there's just so many things that it's like, if we were to just kind of take those things out of context. But again, people want what they want, and it's being able to coach within a thing. But it's like, you know, I don't want to sit there as a coach and do biohack central, which unfortunately I have to do with a lot of clients, to have their cake and eat it too. It is like a math wizardry. It is like, I got to take, like I was telling Janice, if I have a client like that, they're taking berberine at a certain time, we're doing a certain workout. Like, there's so many interventions we have to do. There's so many tactics to fit inside this strategy, when it could be so easily done if it just wasn't taken into context. Again, for waves. Like, I take out caffeine pretty much for the summer because I don't have any desire to drink hot coffee. September, October, probably coming back up, right? I'm like, so these things happen. It's just like, sometimes if the problem is so exacerbated, then why don't we take out these things that are just making it worse?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because we're addicted.
Yeah.
That's why.
It's just funny.
All of it's addicting. Like all of it is electrical transmissions and
Yep.
you know, like what signals is it sending out? It's all
exactly.
You know, you get to a certain point where you're like, can I even get that drunk drinking the same amount anymore? When you can't, that's a problem. Or
That's a problem.
can I even be amped up enough off a certain level of caffeine? If not, that's also a problem.
Yeah.
And we see a copious amounts on both. So, I mean, that's just, I mean, the amount of, I mean, it's honestly one of the reasons I don't like drinking, but I love caffeine, right? I just don't drink. Like, I really just don't drink alcohol. I'm just going to hammer one, right? And if I'm hammering, I'm slowly trying to titrate that back down. But, like, the people that are doing both, like,
it's the both that's really a problem.
It's crazy. It really is.
But what I want you to do is try to peel your ears open to how much you're going to hear it now around your gym, around how much it's loosely thrown around with, and that's not even to spearhead the fact that 1 every 3 Americans is on antidepressant. We're not even throwing that in the mix of what that does to the body.
We didn't even talk about the mental part.
We didn't even go into that, but I'm guaranteeing we have uppers. Then we're taking antidepressants. Then we're taking alcohol at night. Then we're trying to go nuts thinking about our macros and then binge drinking on the weekend. Like, the problem's right in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Food is kind of like out of the question almost. That's why I've always said, like, you know, food is secondary. The first thing is obviously like hydration, but before that is like, look at how many chemicals people are playing with, and then they want to just play more chemicals. So, you know, at what point are you like, am I even in control of myself as a human?
Mm-hmm.
Like, substances are controlling you within every waking moment. Like, you're getting up, you need something to get up, you need something to go to bed, you need something to function throughout the day. Like, your neurotransmitters are completely reliant on substances and not you controlling them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, those are things we have to be like, like, what's really going on here? You know? But yeah, I mean, caffeine is, to me, it's not that bad. It's really the drinking at night. And even one glass of wine is fine, but like, rarely people do that. Yeah. It's a goblet size. It's massive. And then they're kind of sipping from it. So, like, you know,
5 ounces of wine. 5 ounces of wine is like that.
It's nothing. It's like basically what you have in a brandy drink.
Yeah.
Right. And most people, it's like easy 6 to 8. When I have someone pour that back out, they're like, it's like 2 cups. I'm like, yeah, that's not.
I weighed mine back like when I was really tracking hard just because to see whether it was worth it. And I looked, I was like, not even worth it. Next thing you know, I had 10 ounces. Now I'm like, not worth it. Just
yeah.
But it just like food. I mean, you know, we think we have a serving of peanut butter, and next thing you know, you actually put that 32 grams on a scale, and you're like, oh my God, it's like a pin size.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that was probably the most depressing thing ever to me when
I was watching
macros. I mean, that ruined my life.
Yeah, well,
dude, peanut butter ruined my life.
That ruined my life, man.
No, man.
After that. It was that was crazy. Well, listen, we went for an hour. Man,
dude, we packed that thing. Like, I mean, that was a walkthrough.
We really did. Always a great conversation. I hope a lot of people listen to this, because I think it's going to open some eyes to the way people view how much they drink. I hope it helps some people. I hope it helps some of our clients that we're working with, kind of hearing it again from some different people, talking here. And it's able to resonate with everyone. But I almost have an idea for next week now because of what we talked about today. We might go the other route for next week and talk about.
Okay, what do you got on the table? What are you thinking for next week?
We have to go to the other part. We might have to talk about the uppers next week. And
the stimulants. Man, I love talking about stimulants. Yeah.
We might have to do that, and then maybe some other options that are better than taking stimulants.
Way better. Yeah.
All right. So, all right, guys. Well, listen. I'm going to go tame my 3 kids that I don't know where they went in this building. I'm going to go tame them. Again, it was always a pleasure talking to you guys, and we'll talk next week.
Later.
All right, cool.
All right, see you guys.
Sounds good. Bye. Thanks, Matt.